Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the REC podcast, brought to you by REC Comics and Collectibles. I'm your host, Roman Chavez, and with me as always,
Erik and Roman.
And I mean, technically, he's a host too, but he's a co-host.
I'm a co-host.
Yeah. I can't let him run this thing. He would take you guys down a great path, but
You wouldn't want to go.
you wouldn't want to go. You'd be like, "What did we do?"
This would turn into some debauchery.
Which we don't need, guys. We're
No.
here to have fun.
We're here to have fun.
We're here to have some fun. I mean, and if you like that kind of fun, we'll get an Erik cast going. All right, kids, you can follow us on Instagram at the REC Podcast. You can follow myself at Roman REC Podcast, and you can follow the shop where we're having weekly claim sales at REC Comics.
You can follow me at Erik J. Wilden _Esquire.
Ooh,
Back on it, baby.
Erik J. Wilden _Esquire. Look at this guy. Yeah, if you guys didn't know, Erik became a lawyer since last we saw him. So,
hey, baby.
So that sounds interesting. That sounds fun.
Yeah.
Kids, it's been a little bit longer than we meant.
Yeah.
We are living up this new year, doing some new things, and we've got some new stuff to talk about, which is always good.
Yeah.
The Moon Knight trailer.
Yes, sir.
Debuted on Monday during halftime, I believe, of the NFC wildcard game, I believe. And what'd you think?
You know, listening to the past podcasts, I'm a diehard Moon Knight fan here, as is my boy.
Yes.
I gotta say, Oscar Isaac, perfect choice to play Mark Spector. My first impression was very derivative of Memento. It's got the movie Memento kind of flavor going there, which I guess it makes sense for the character.
Yeah.
For those who don't know, he's got multiple personalities going, so he blacks out occasionally, wakes up as somebody else.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to see where it goes. Visually looks really good.
It's Batman in Fight Club.
Hey.
You know, that's what's going on here. It's Chuck Palahniuk's Batman, all right? Yes, trailer was very, very thought-provoking.
Yeah.
Especially with this kind of new generation of MCU product where there's not a lot of this stuff is not mainstream. You know, Eric's favorite movie was Eternals last year, and that's not mainstream at all.
No. And it shouldn't be.
The one thing I will say, I'm gonna start with the negative first for me.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I'm gonna start with the negative. That image that we saw online a few months back was correct. That was the Moon Knight costume.
It was. You're not a fan.
I don't care for it.
It looks good.
It looks good, but it reminds me of Ragman from DC Comics. Right? And
you just ruined that. You totally just ruined that.
And
for me.
it kind of comes onto him like Ragman in DC Comics. So I'm not as big of a fan of that. However, what if that's just how he sees it in his head initially?
I hope so.
I hope so too, because also what it evokes in me too is a symbiote, which I don't want.
Don't do that. Please don't do that.
So those are two negative things. I think that the finished product it looks okay, but it doesn't look too, especially Wanda's costume.
We've been treated to some really comic book accurate costumes in the last few years.
Blown it out of the water.
Yeah.
So this kind of it looks cool, but it's not what I want.
Sure. It's not what you just dashed it, man. I haven't been crushed like that since I told there was no Santa Claus. That's all I'm going to see now.
Man. Yeah, it did have and I love Ragman. Ragman's a really interesting character.
I like him as him.
Yes.
Not as Mark Spector. I don't know. I want to know what stories they're going to be pulling from. A lot of classic Moon Knight stories. We don't have time to go into all of them.
Yeah.
They're all very good.
We'll give Moon Knight his own, once we get a little bit more info on where it's going.
Sure.
Ethan Hawke is
Right.
not rumored. He is the bad guy.
He's talking about Ragman. He ain't looking good. I don't know if he's supposed to look like that or that's just how he looks now.
Yeah.
Because I know during the pandemic they weren't able to get to their doctors as much, so things are starting to sag and not be pushed up as much. And God bless him. You were a dime back in the day, man.
Yeah.
But now, oof.
I don't know if I thought he was dimey, but he had that
Mark McGrath.
He looks like Mark McGrath's less attractive brother. Because Mark McGrath, now that's a man dime. That's a full-on man dime. Sugar Ray Kids, check it out.
You remember when they were in Scooby-Doo?
Yeah, dude, I like that Scooby-Doo
Were they
movie.
in Scooby-Doo or Fathers? No, they were in...
I think they were in both.
Okay. They
were definitely in Father's Day because all they did was play Speed Home California, right?
Yeah, and then like Mark McGrath makes out with the daughter, which
that's
I
right.
thought was very, she's supposed to be like 15 in that.
That movie. Maybe they're not in Scooby-Doo. Anyway, we digress.
It doesn't matter.
I think that the trailer looked really good. I love how hard hitting it feels when he's just beating that dude on the bathroom floor or whatever. I like the trippiness of it, of him seeing his reflection in the mirrors and it changing, because I wonder if they'll just go Mark and this Stephen Knight. I can't remember what they're Stephen Grant. Anyway,
into Mr. Knight.
Yeah, I don't know who, what personalities are going to lean to, and if they just kind of focus on maybe two,
right,
just on the Moon Knight, the Mark. But they say Mark, they say Stephen, I think, and then then we have the Moon Knight, because really Mark and the Moon Knight are also different,
very much
so. I'm curious to see what they're going to do.
It sounds convoluted, but it works within the medium.
Yes.
So they can make this happen on the show, which Marvel has been hitting home runs with all these like B characters. I mean, they did a real good with the Netflix heroes up until Iron Fist Defenders. But I was thinking like this. I think I love how Marvel / Disney does a lot of cool allegories within their stories. And I think they can treat this kind of PTSD, because he is a former Marine, and they can kind of write it into the show.
I wonder if they will.
And, because they did, and I think they can do it,
Okay. I hope so.
There needs to be some sort of spotlight shed onto that. And if they can do it through this show, that'd be great.
Yeah.
Because he's a mercenary in the comic book, if I'm not correct, right?
He's a mercenary. He's an actor, a cab driver, an adventurer. He does it all, kids. He's
a quadruple threat.
Yeah, he's a Swiss Army knife of superheroes, and I mean he's violent. So, I mean, there's an excellent exchange in the comic books with Moon Knight and our boy Frank Castle, where Frank says, "How's it going, Moon Knight? You still worshiping your fake god?" And to which Moon Knight replies, How's your dead family?" So
he's
Not,
hardcore. He don't play.
Yeah, he's not worried.
I love how Oscar Isaac keeps playing these kind of like Egyptian kind of roles, because he was Apocalypse. What's Apocalypse's real name?
Sabah Nur.
Yeah. I mean, let's not talk about that movie.
No.
That was
the movie's
awful.
It has some cool action in it, but it's not great. What a waste of Apocalypse. I can't wait.
What a waste of Psylocke, Apocalypse, Storm, Archangel.
Yeah.
I could go on, kids.
Yes. It was not
just
our
like the
best
many
foot forward.
personalities of Mark Spector. X-Men Apocalypse has many personalities of suck.
Yeah. Ooh.
It's like an onion of suck.
Suck incarnate. All right. Trailer was good.
Yes, sir.
I cannot wait to see more. I will watch one more trailer, because I want to see a little bit more of the storyline. Right. But that's it. If they do 4 trailers, which they kind of do sometimes, I'm only watching the next one and then I'm out.
That's a wrap.
I was gonna segue into some HBO Max stuff, but you know what? Let's do some big news that came out this week in the comic book world.
Oh yeah, this was
interesting.
Yes.
Apparently, DC has announced that it will be killing several members of the Justice League in April. It's been rumored that there will be up to 9 key Justice League members being killed, finito in the comics, and
Well, you had an interesting theory about this, man.
This is
like you said, it does coincide.
This does coincide with, I believe it's about 30 years since we killed Superman.
Right.
And it's about 30 years since DC had lost the number 2 spot to Hot Boy on the Block Image Comics. It's hard to be number 1.
Sure.
But if you can be a consistent number 2, like I believe,
you got to be regular, kids.
Former president of DC, I believe Paul Levitz. I may be quoting the wrong person, but he said it's always better to be number 2. It's like nobody's looking at number 2. People are always gunning for number 1. You never look at your number 2,
Don't
kids.
do that.
Yep, stay clean.
Actually, you know what? Clean. Sometimes you should.
Healthy flow, kids. Healthy flow.
Healthy flow. But you said that the guy that is in charge, he left recently to go work with Kanye?
So there was a higher up executive for DC Comics that was hired very recently, and has left in a very small amount of time to go and work for Kanye West instead, because apparently
he wanted to see two giant dynasties fall.
Yeah, apparently it's probably
crazy.
easier to work for Kanye West than it is to work at DC Comics.
I believe
as we followed many times on the show during the pandemic when they laid off upwards of 400 people. You know, no, it was 2 years ago.
Was that 2 years ago?
2020.
2021 didn't happen.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. So, I mean, yes, a calendar year, almost over a calendar year,
Yeah,
but
that's crazy, dude.
all they do is just been laying people off. You know, Jim Lee, I believe, got his buddy Todd McFarlane the license for the DC figures. I don't know that that's true. It's just what I would think.
I mean, I'm sure he was like, come on.
Yeah.
He was doing the nudging.
Come on.
Do it for the McFarlane man.
So, like we were saying, it does feel a little coincidental that it is going to coincide with just about 30 years since Superman died. You know, the rise of these indie books, these very popular indie titles. Now, they're not selling what, you know, a Justice League or a Batman is every month, but they're making waves, and they're being made
consistent.
They're consistent. They're being made into shows, successful shows. Yeah. So, and some unsuccessful. Let's be real.
Well, I mean, you know, no one bats a. I'm not going to use a sporting term, but you know.
Yeah, but you know, we could argue that there are far more successful indie comic book movies and television shows than there are DC television shows and movies.
Yeah, I will take Mantis, which isn't even a comic book show, over anything
Superhero.
DC. Yeah. Actually, you know what? DC, when they hit it, they hit it. Yeah. I will say that.
We will get to that, but it's interesting. I think that they're going, I mean, this is clearly a cash grab. I can't imagine.
They need it.
They do. You know, the death of Superman was wildly overprinted, so kids don't go chasing waterfalls. Okay?
You know, don't come into your local comic book store flashing that around thinking you got something.
Yes, I can't tell you.
Laughed out of the store.
I can't tell you how many people come into the shop, and if you're watching, kids, I'm sorry.
It's nothing.
The death of Superman doesn't matter. It doesn't matter in comics. There's a weird rare variant that even that doesn't even really garner any
$20.
Yeah, like it doesn't matter. Now there'll be less copies of this than the death of Superman.
Well, sure, because they're not printing as much.
Exactly. You know. I think it's worth getting to read. Sure. So come by your local comic book shop, buy one, leave one behind. You know, let's let everybody get one.
So what do you think? Do you think? I mean, obviously, they're going to kill off all the major ones. We know that. If they're killing off 9, we got to assume Batman, Superman, Martian, Hawkman.
I think they kill the Trinity, and I think that's what they're alluding to. Like this isn't,
Woman.
this isn't even me, you know, speculating. Like it's heavily implied that they're going to be killing the Trinity. And the thing is, I think they're trying to replace the Justice League, like in general. A friend of the show, Casey Duke, was telling me that the Winnie the Pooh is supposedly becoming public domain soon, which is wild because the Mouse House, you know, they have it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah. Winnie the Pooh.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. You know, it's something like 100 years. It may vary from IP to IP, but which also then begs the question. I mean, we just celebrated the 80th anniversary of DC Comics. You know, so then that would put, you know, Superman and Batman and Wonder Woman. It would put a lot of these characters close to public domain.
Right.
You know, in the grand scale of things. So do we like in our lifetime we could see, you know, Erik, you know, break off from the REC podcast and go do his independent fan fiction Batman, you know, story.
Yeah.
And you know, I don't know all of the words and all of the rights and the laws.
I mean, I am a lawyer.
Yes, Esquire here. So I wonder if they're trying to set up the next class because I feel like Marvel is doing a similar thing, but they're just doing it with more grace and finesse to where they're trying to establish characters and give them their own, you know, we just celebrated the 10th anniversary of Miles Morales. We're going to be selling the 10th anniversary of Spider-Gwen or Ghost Spider. And I know Gwen Stacy's been around forever, but this iteration of her being an active superhero in the Marvel Universe, that is, you know, only 10 years old now.
Right.
So, you know, they're trying to build on these characters that, you know, can maybe... I remember when we were kids.
Yes.
Remember we would buy comics and it would be like 30 years of X-Men.
Right. Yeah.
You know, we're up past 60, you know, close to, you know, 60 years of X-Men now. You know,
That's
like
crazy.
It's wild. So, maybe, when our kids are older or
Right.
our grandkids are older, they're going to be like, 50 years of Miles Morales. Like it's going to be that will be their thing later on.
Right.
And maybe, when the reboots happen of the Miles, because we'll get a Miles, a live action.
Sure.
But when the reboots happen, then it'll be like more significant. So I think DC's just like they're floundering in sales. Like they're just beating out the indie guys by volume.
Just
by
by
sheer volume.
Right. And just the namesake.
Yes. I mean,
if it
bat
didn't
titles
say,
galore.
yeah.
It's just what it is, man. It's bat titles.
You're not kidding.
Yeah, I think
he pointed out every bat title. I'm like, you got to be kidding me.
And when we say bat titles, we're talking about anything bat adjacent to. So Robins, Catwoman, Jokers, Harleys, all that stuff that spans from Batman Prime.
Right.
There's I remember one month we were putting out books and it was like 24 or 27 bat titles for the month.
It's insanity. And again, it's like, and half of those, I would say more than half of those don't warrant a series.
No, yeah, they're like 3-issue miniseries. Now some of them are cool.
Right. I'm not saying that all of them are trash, but at the same time, it's like, to your point, I think they're putting a lot of these out just to either keep the namesake or just, people are going to pick this up regardless. Because it's Batman, regardless of how good it's written or drawn.
Yeah.
And I don't know how to feel about that.
They're just. I feel like Jim Lee is completely isolated from all of this.
He's just a figure. He's just a figurehead.
Yeah, he's the queen of England, but for DC Comics, like they just keep telling Jim, "You're doing great.
You're doing good,
let us know what you need."
Yeah.
I'm sure he knows more than that, but he always seems to be. He always seems to have a cool face in all of this. But man, Jim's been aging these last few years.
He is Asian.
Yeah, he's been Asian these last few years. But yeah, it's interesting. It's a complete cash grab. I think that if you want the book, I'm telling you now, it's in April. I can't remember the Justice League number, but April's Justice League is supposedly going to kill. I am going to try to bring in 25 copies of it just to have it on the shelf. I hope I can move it, but I don't expect long-term value on it unless they do something
huge in there
and what's bigger than killing the Justice League? I don't know.
The thing is, nobody cares.
Yeah, that's the thing.
I mean, if
all of those people have died
15 years ago, if they said this 15 years ago, this would be front page news.
Yeah,
this would be on every entertainment channel.
Yeah, I had to research it a little.
That's what I'm saying.
And it just wasn't. It'll be that thing where the news will talk about it that week.
Sure.
So then I'll have a bunch of people in here that have never been to the shop or been to a comic book shop in 10 years to get it, which is fine. I'm happy to sell them this book, but I just want to let the casuals know that they listen to the show. Don't go nuts.
Yeah.
Get yourself a copy because it is a piece. It'll be a piece of history regardless. But I don't know. I just don't know how wild
I don't know, and all I can see the positive spin on this is them like you bring in the next class. Yeah. Bringing in new heroes that are worthwhile about writing about.
Yes,
that's what I can only be excited for.
Yeah, put some more people up front. You know, they put Cyborg in the Justice League in the aughts, and how'd
that go?
It's good. It was very because Cyborg deserved it. He had been on the Teen Titans since the beginning,
right? And
he's just so integral. I mean, in the way that they use him now, he's very much a Martian Manhunter type thing where he's the guy in the chair, but he's a freaking cyborg that knows a lot of stuff and is jacked in the internet. So it's interesting. We'll tell you more about it as we find out more stuff.
Right. I mean, we'll read it and review it. I'm sure. We're gonna get a rebooted Justice League movie.
Yeah.
Hopefully they'll reuse new characters. I would be stoked for that. Look, I'm kind of over Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman.
Yeah.
It's been done to death because it hasn't been done well. Yeah. That's why it's been done to death for me. And it's kind of upsetting because those are three of my favorite characters.
Right.
And recasting wouldn't be bad. Who would you want to play Cyborg? I want Trinidad James. I have no idea. Like, I'm so off the DC radar right now. Yeah, it's a bummer. There was a point. It was your favorite read.
I was getting way more DC. I've always been a Marvel kid, but I was getting way, especially like during the Blackest Night stuff, the War of the Light things. Like Green Lantern was so good, Batman was so good, but yeah, it's just, and I'm not reading much right now, to be honest. Outside some indie titles, a couple of the hot books of the week.
See?
But a lot of people our age, like I'm finding a lot of guys who are in their almost 40s, except Eric. Eric's a crisp 28. These guys who are in my age group, they've gravitated towards more indie books.
Right.
You know, they get their one or two staples from Marvel, but they do the indie books. So it's a, you know, it's just us growing up, you know, like we like some capes and cows, but there's so, like I said, there's 27 probably related Batman titles.
3 of them are good.
3 of them are, good. A couple of them may have some bright points, but we're not, you know, you're not doing anything to move the needle for these guys as often. And when you are, you're doing DC's doing the Black Label stuff.
Right.
But all the Black Label stuff is either, it's oddly Batman related or Swamp Thing. There's been like 2 Swamp Thing.
They keep trying to make him a thing, which I think he's cool, but there's only so much you can do with him.
It's just Alan Moore did a very definitive run on Swamp Thing.
Right,
I don't remember what the story's about.
I don't either. But I remember it was good.
Yeah, people love it. I don't even know if I read the whole thing. You know, it's just, and mostly just because it's older. You know, it's just older.
I don't know. I mean, we can only hope DC can, you know, because like you said, they're on the ropes, man.
Yeah,
they need a hit.
Yeah,
you know. But you know, maybe I can always hope that they maybe cut some of this volume crap out and just focus on quality, you know. I
think honestly, I just think right now all they have is volume. Like they're lucky that the DC faithful stay pretty. I mean, most of the guys that here at the
just
shop,
sort of that battered spouse syndrome.
Yeah,
I mean, it kind of is.
I know
I'm not trivializing it, but come on.
No,
it sucks. Why are you staying?
Yeah,
they're gonna change.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see. We'll see in April. We'll see in April because they're pushing it. It sounds like they're gonna Marvel might restart Spider-Man again for the millionth time. So I'm gonna have to double check that. Get you guys some info on that. Yeah, don't get me wrong, guys. Marvel is the worst perpetrator of this because I think we're getting a new X-Men title too. Yeah. You know, they were going out there with the 90s shiny, with the millions of number ones, the tie-ins galore. At least DC, you know, they're staying fairly consistent.
Right.
You know, Marvel will have 5-6 covers for one book. DC's like, we're going to have 3.
Right.
And then if we have any more, they're going to be high ratios.
Right.
You know,
at least they're going to give you a little bang for your buck.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And they're giving you the cardstock variants, which are very cool. Well received. So, you know, cool. I don't want to leave on a bad note with DC. I'm concerned about what the future holds.
You, man.
Yeah. Just you know, take care of yourself. Okay. Get better. All right.
Check your number 2s.
However.
Yes, sir.
HBO Max.
Oh yeah.
James Gunn, John Cena. Peacemaker, spinning out of last year's The Suicide Squad, which was arguably one of the best. If we included everything comic book in our Marvel, in our MCU like top 9,
it would have made it.
Suicide Squad is probably in the top 3 for me.
Top 5 for me.
Top 5 definitely. Top 3 it gets a little tough because those Marvel things were just so good were good.
But that's a testament to how good The Suicide Squad was, and a lot of people were so turned off by it because of the first one and just what has become of the DCEU.
Yeah.
I'm just going to go right out and say it, kids. If you haven't watched it, go watch it. Streaming. It's amazing.
Has the greatest intro of any television show I've ever seen in my life.
Right.
And it makes you want to not hit the skip button.
It's true.
James Gunn may have effectively eliminated the skip button for it. It has this great what sounds like a fantastic 80s song, but it's modern by some like Swedish band called Wigwam.
Yeah.
And I don't know if they're Swedish, but they're definitely
across the pond
in some facet. But the show is fantastic. Spoilers a little bit on for The Suicide Squad. I don't want to spoil too much about The Suicide Squad because if you haven't seen it and you started watching Peacemaker,
you gotta
you should go back.
Yeah.
But John Cena's Peacemaker showed up in The Suicide Squad. He's basically a psycho Captain America to an extent. You know, really patriotic, believes in doing the right things for the wrong reasons, the right thing
by any means.
Yeah, by any means necessary. And he's kind of like this lovable doof. But he will kill you if it means getting the mission done.
Right.
So we're left with a lot of conflict from The Suicide Squad, and this movie or this show literally picks up, you know, within weeks of the show or the film. And man, is John Cena just not ridiculously charming? He's just awesome. He's so charming as this character. The supporting cast of Hulcourt and Myrn. Waller's kid. It's just a really strong cast, and they really are leaning into the funny.
Right. Which John Cena does so well.
Well,
he plays comedic actions so good. Well, he reacts to it well.
Yes,
he's doing that wrestling background.
He's doing that aloofness so well.
That's his wrestling character.
Yeah, he's lovably naive, a little crass.
Right.
But oh my gosh, he is so much fun. And a quick thing that they added to this: there's 4 episodes out right now. I haven't seen the 4th episode yet. I'm 3 in. But they've added Vigilante to the cast, and Vigilante, his costume looks great. In the comics, Adrian Chase has a very kind of tragic storyline. Yeah. I've seen a couple versions of it where either he's like a DEA type character or this like a hard-boiled detective, so-and-so.
Question-ish.
A little bit, yes. And he, has some big tragedy, Punisher-esque tragedy happen in his life, survives it, and then just goes on a vigilante type thing. Yeah, he is the Punisher meets like Casey Jones a little bit, and. It's usually he's fairly serious in the comics. The first appearance is in a New Teen Titans annual, and but they basically made him Deadpool in the show,
right?
And it works. It's not full, because you're never gonna match, Ryan Reynolds' charm. No. But this guy, who is British in real life, I didn't know that, is doing this kind of nerdy Deadpool-esque character.
It's almost
with Vigilante.
A parody of Deadpool,
very much,
but it's funny. It works,
and he's like. He's Peacemaker's best friend, but Peacemaker doesn't really know it and doesn't really acknowledge it. But he does care about Vigilante. Yeah, you would. Yeah, you would definitely be the Vigilante of the group. There's a really funny scene, and I don't even know if you've caught this yet, where Peacemaker has to take out this target, and I'll just say this without ruining too much, but the targets also may be children. And Peacemaker's like, "Are you sure?" And if you hadn't seen the Suicide Squad, he says he loves peace. He doesn't care. He'll do anything to see it, and he doesn't care how many men, women, and children he has to kill to get peace. So, based on some things he had done in the Suicide Squad, he's having some second thoughts of his kill whoever to get whatever. Yeah. So he's on the gun, and he's kind of like shaking a bit. And, just doesn't want to pull the trigger. And you just see a hand come up on Peacemaker. And he's like, "Hey, buddy, why don't you move over? I'll take care of this." And the Vigilante gets on the gun. And he's just like, huh? Boom. So and it's funny because he's not supposed to be there either. He just keeps showing up. Like Peacemaker is working for Argus or for the government. Yeah. And Vigilante is not supposed to be tagging along. And he just keeps showing up. The show is brilliant. It's funny. It has a lot of heart to it. It is very rated R, kids. Oh, so, yeah. I mean, we're talking nudity, sexual situations,
hardcore
violence like you wouldn't believe, but really, really fun.
But it works in the context of the show.
And it's just because they needed a little Marvel blood to get this thing going. James Gunn has written and directed every episode. Right. He says that he was just so blown away by John Cena's portrayal of Peacemaker, which, Eric...
Yes, sir.
Do you know Peacemaker is who the comedian is based off of?
Yes, I did know that.
I did not know that.
Yes.
Friend of the shop, not the show, cool guy Ted told me about that this week. Ted is a customer who shops here frequently. He would think himself a young man. Ted, you're old and I love you, all right? And he actually told me about the Peacemaker thing. I did not know, because we've talked about this in our Watchmen episode, but the Watchmen characters are based from these characters from Charlton Comics. Yeah. The Question from Charlton, Rorschach, the Silk Spectre, the Phantom Lady, Charlton, the Silk Spectre, the Blue Beetle, Night Owl, and and so on. Captain Atom, Dr. Manhattan. But I did not know that Peacemaker was who he was kind of based off of.
Because everyone would always assume that it was supposed to be Captain America, which made no sense.
Yes, yeah.
But it's like, no, it was Peacemaker. And initially,
I didn't know that.
Peacemaker was supposed to be in there. They made a deal he was supposed to be in Watchmen, but then something fell through, so they had to make the comedian right off the bat.
Well, initially
it was all supposed to be Charlton.
It was all going to be Charlton characters, and then DC got the rights to the Charlton people, and Alan Moore said, "Cool, so I can use them."
Guys,
and they were like, "Well, we actually have some other ideas for them. Why don't you just keep your story and just like change some things?" And made a freaking success. Such a success that I don't even know who the Peacemaker is. Outside of like I knew that he was a comic book character, but I've seen Peacemaker in things. That's
about it. Yeah. So totally.
Yeah. So I thought that was a cool thing. It makes total sense.
Oh yeah.
Robert Patrick plays Peacemaker's dad.
Yeah, great job. Man.
Whom they made the White Dragon. And in the comics, the White Dragon is a white supremacist.
I'm about to say he's either Grand Pumbaa.
Yes. Yeah, he is one of those characters. Eric hasn't gotten to the part where those of you who have gotten there have seen some things. But Robert Patrick's a fantastic addition. I love that Peacemaker's just a sweet boy.
Yes.
He's a sweet boy trying to impress his dad and make America proud, but does not know where he fits.
He's like Kings of Leon, because Kings of Leon, their dad was actually in the Klan. If you didn't know that,
I did know that, kids, but I know that I did not know that.
Oh, yep. So they're just trying to make their old racist daddy proud with some crappy music.
Well, I know that I could use somebody. All right, it's a great song, Eric. It's catchy.
It is catchy.
But Peacemaker, kids, check it out.
Yeah,
it is
great.
DC's best foot forward. I like it more than Aquaman.
I did too.
Yeah, I like it more than Aquaman.
Yeah, me too.
And I mean, obviously, it's going to have some advantages, but I really appreciate what they're doing in there, and I hope they give it a second season.
Yeah.
It's got to finish strong. It's got to finish strong, but right now, as the 3 episodes I've seen,
it almost to me seems like this is what Falcon Winter Soldier aesthetically should have been.
Yeah.
Instead of just going in all these rando directions, it should have been more about what does it take to make peace, and what does a symbol mean to somebody. Instead of like.
Yeah. It's fantastic, kids. I hope you watch it. Let us know what you think of that show below.
You want to pour one out for Louis Anderson?
I think we got to pour a couple out.
What's going on?
Yeah, man. Eric, lay it down for us.
You got to pour one
Let's
out
do the obits.
for Louis Anderson and a meatloaf going up to that big buffet in the sky. Kind of a bummer, man.
Maybe they're going together. Maybe they're going together. That's a good ride, kid. That's a good ride to heaven.
For those who don't know, Meatloaf wrote the. What's the name of the song?
I don't know if he wrote it, but he definitely performed it. Yeah. But everything from Bad at Hell, Paradise by Dashboard Lights.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
I would do anything for love,
but I won't do that.
But I won't do that.
I will not do that.
But that's the only thing I want.
A lot of hits.
Yeah,
and his name was Robert Paulson, right? No.
Yes. Yeah. Robert Paulson.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's right.
It's been a while since I've watched Fight Club. Yep. We'll pour one out for him. Louis Anderson. I think for me, the thing that stands out for me from Louis was Life with Louis. There was a weird animated cartoon when we were kids. Yeah, no longer part of that. But yeah, it was a weird cartoon when we were kids. Yeah. Saturday morning or an after school thing. I can't remember.
It was Saturday morning.
Okay. Yeah. And it was based on like Louis Anderson, like his childhood. Yeah. Kind of like Bobby's World was with Howie Mandel. Weird time in cartoons for kids.
Yeah, these kind of rando comedians got cartoons.
Had we
Super Dave?
Super Dave, yeah.
Which arguably can't say he's a comedian, but I always thought he was funny.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I'm sure we're missing a couple rando comedians that got their own cartoons. But the Bobby's World and Louis, Life with Louis, really stuck out with me. Mm-hmm. And it made me laugh. Louis Anderson was funny on Family Feud.
I guess he was.
He
weird.
just looked so like he did not want to be on Family Feud, and that's why I loved it.
I didn't care for him. What's his name? Al Borland was was a little creepy.
Yeah, he kind of
just like cringy. He was just a little cringy.
Cringy, yes.
The original host, he was the creepy one, always feeling up the ladies.
Yeah,
and
kissing,
stuff.
asking for kisses.
Jeez,
oh man, you can't do that now.
The goat though, Steve Harvey. He's really good. He's great. He's great. He kills it. He kills it.
Great.
But that's neither here nor there, kids. Again, we digress in pouring one out. Did we talk about Bob Saget in the last episode?
No.
Okay.
It's been a minute, kids.
It's been a little minute,
so
I guess
one out for the Sag Man.
Yeah, we did talk about Betty White.
I got the funniest text from my man here that I cannot repeat.
Yeah, sorry.
But I will tell you, I laughed super hard when I got that text.
Man, I'm glad. I do that for you, Eric. I do that for you.
I was dying.
Pour that one out for America's dad, or at least one of them on the Mount Rushmore of TV dads from the 80s and 90s.
Yeah.
I mean, Danny Tanner.
Yes.
America's Funniest Home Videos.
Right.
Of stand-up fame that I did not care for, but Bob Saget. So, rough one, kids. Rough January.
Yeah, I know. First, it starts with Miss Betty White. Then you take the Sag Man. Then you take the Loaf Man.
Yeah.
And the Lou Man.
Oh man, it sounds like quite the quartet. Quite the quartet that Death has collected this week.
It sounds like a crappy bus on the way to Cripple Creek.
Yeah, like Bob and Louie, one's opening for the other.
Yeah.
So, but kids, that is our show.
Yes.
We hope that you like what we're doing, and if you do, please subscribe, like, and comment below. Let us know what you think of Peacemaker. If you hadn't watched it, if you go watch it, tell us what you think below.
Yeah.
Were you excited about the Moon Knight trailer? Are you pouring one out for our, a lot of these people.
Pouring one out for DC Comics already?
We might have to, man. We're have to wear all black. We have to wear all black.
All white.
You wear all white, I'll wear all
there
black. That if DC Comics were to fall. Kids, thank you for listening. I have been your host, Roman Chavez.
I'm still Eric Icarus.
And we will catch you on the next podcast.